everybody, Ebony Moon from Ebony Moon Apothecary here, and I wanted to talk intuition with you today. We all have intuition. Some of us, our intuition is stronger than others. Personally, I've had very weird experiences, but also some cool experiences and some scary situations where I didn't follow my intuition, or where my intuition was telling me something and I followed it and ended up seeing the end result of what would have happened if I hadn't. When it comes to my intuition now, I always try and follow it, but we also have situations where sometimes anxiety takes the place of intuition, and I want to talk about some things to help us with that too. For example, growing up, I used to be able to tell who was calling before called, just purely intuition. That's something super small, super simple, not like earth-shatteringly big or anything like that of how intuition works, but it's something small that you can see, okay, it's Grandma calling, or it's Marie calling, or I really need to take this phone call because it's really going to be important, even though I don't know why. It's an important phone call. Or we get those awful calls in the middle of the night. We all know that nobody should be calling in the middle of the night unless we told them to, and that phone rings and you just feel your stomach drop because you know it's a bad call. Growing up, I had some family who was sick. They were sick my entire lives. I always seemed to find myself with them right when they needed somebody. My uncle, for one, he had a form of kidney disease and he had had it since he was 2. Growing up, I would suddenly find this weird need that I needed to be there. I needed to go see him, and I needed to be at my family's house, and I would find myself there, and I would do anything just as an excuse to stay, and I never could figure out why. Then once somebody else got there, I would be able to leave, and then probably within an hour to half an hour, I would get the call that he was in the hospital because after I left, he went downhill and needed emergency medical treatment. That's one thing of intuition where by following it, you can sometimes help somebody or save somebody. I've had situations where I worked in a very public atmosphere for a while, and I could have my back to the door and somebody would walk in and I knew something bad was going to happen. Just my stomach would drop out from under me. The floor would almost fall flat. I felt like I was going to fall through the floor. And I knew there was something very bad going to happen unless that person left. A lot of people have that kind of intuition, but they choose not to follow it for whatever reason. I don't know why we try to talk ourselves out of following our own personal voice that directs us. It's so ingrained in us to, oh, everybody's great, everybody's good, but then all of a sudden also on the other side of it, everything's bad. Like, kids don't talk to strangers, but you're talking to a stranger. You tell kids, it's okay, talk to this person, it's fine. But they're like, no, I'm sorry, I don't. There's something about them that makes that child uncomfortable. Don't try and force them to, because they are closer to their intuition than you might be, because you've been forced your entire life to ignore it. Especially working in public atmospheres like retail or restaurants. You're constantly going in this cycle of, I have to go and put on a face and introduce myself to somebody I don't know. No matter how weird I feel about this, no matter how uncomfortable this table makes me, I need to pretend that I like them. and starts to trick you into believing that your gut feeling isn't right. Well, that's not really the best way to do it. That's not really the best thing to do. Some ways that you can try to get better in contact with your own intuition again would be, if you feel like you shouldn't take the same way home that night, don't. Go around the block. If you feel like somebody's following you, check. Don't just ignore that feeling. Or go a little bit out of your way. Turn a few circles. See what happens. But also, when it comes to anxiety versus intuition, anxiety kind of makes you shut down. I know. I had it for years. I still have it. Completely honest. Still have anxiety at times. Sometimes I can't breathe. Don't know why. I found that there are things to help me. Herbs, sprays, and I create them myself. And actually, that's what I was going to talk to you guys about. When I was little, I used to know when somebody would show up at the house unexpected. But here's something that is the difference between intuition versus anxiety. I used to know when somebody would show up at the house who was a friend, but so many negative things ended up being connected with me answering the door that every time the doorbell rings, I start to have an anxiety attack. There's no reason for it. There's not some boogeyman standing on the other side of the door, usually. There isn't somebody there to shut off the water. I can even see a delivery person delivering a package, but my body goes into almost a shock because as a child, I've faced so many situations where it was bad news on the other side of that door that now my body can't tell that it's normal. There's nothing to be worried about. I was sitting in my front yard yesterday, and my back was kind of towards the street, and somebody yelled my name. Well, didn't even yell my name. They just said my name. And the first thing that came to my mind, my adrenaline went through the roof. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm being served lawsuit papers. No idea where that came from. It's a mix of, they got my name right, and it was an unfamiliar man walking up to me who knew my name. As an adult, sometimes things happen, sometimes you're getting served with paperwork, sometimes it could be anything. I have no idea why this man's walking up to me, who knows my name, but the first thing that my brain jumped to, which caused my adrenaline to go skyrocketing, and caused me to question if I should even admit who I was that I was being served lawsuit papers even though I haven't done anything wrong at all. Yeah, that's anxiety versus intuition. My intuition was like, wait a second, calm down. There's no reason for this. You need to chill. And once I did, I realized that I had a package that was delivered to the wrong address, and these nice people had actually brought it to me. That's how they knew my name. That's how they knew my address. And he was getting out of the car to bring it all the way up to me, who was sitting in my yard. Yeah. Anxiety can get the better of us sometimes. So, going into that, I thought that I would share some of the things that help me when it comes to my anxiety. Simple things that you can find anywhere. Some of the things you probably already know, like chamomile tea. You might not be a tea drinker, but chamomile actually is super helpful for more than just drinking as a tea. you can turn it into a spray and spray yourself with it and clear the energy that you're emitting or absorbing from other people. One of the things that I actually make myself is my sprays, my hydrosols. This one is a lavender cinnamon. It smells more like cinnamon than lavender, just because I added extra cinnamon to it that's for a very specific reason. But when I start to feel my anxiety getting the better of me versus my intuition being helpful, I can have this in my purse and whip it out and just spritz myself down. Another thing is, some people carry sage. White sage is super handy and super helpful for some people. Some people are allergic to the smoke though, so you gotta be kind of careful if you're like lighting it up just all the time. Sometimes I carry it in my car and I'll light it after having an uncomfortable experience, or after my intuition tells me that I've just exposed myself to somebody I don't want to be around. My intuition is very good at identifying negative people. I am able to spot and feel someone up to no good before most other people can. I actually get physically dizzy when faced with a nasty person, an evil person, but there are not too many of those. There are people who don't have the greatest plans, and so I carry all kinds of different stuff. Another thing that's super handy is lavender. I have a big old handful of lavender buds right here. I make oils out of it and waters out of lavender. Something to keep in mind is you could just keep a little teeny tiny bottle of lavender oil and dab it on when you need to calm down or relax and figure out if it is intuition versus anxiety. Lavender also can be drank as tea. You can put it in food. You can burn it. One of my favorite things is to turn it into a lavender incense besides the sprays. I grind it down. Sorry, as I wiggle the camera a bit. I grind it down and light it up. And that really helps me calm down and relax. It will also help with nightmares. So say you've had a really bad day and you're really prone to anxiety or nightmares or things like that, you can burn a little bit of incense, of lavender incense before bed, and it'll help calm your brain and help just relax you enough to get a decent night's sleep. I have insomnia really bad sometimes, and it works like a charm. But so, when it comes to intuition, I can read people, and sometimes it's actually a good thing to click through random people on the internet. First thing that comes to you, write it down. Get an idea. Ooh, better yet, if you have social media, which I'm guessing you do, click through your friends' lists. Just write down their names and your very first impression of that person through their pictures, whatever. Even if it's like, oh, this person's beautiful, try and go a little deeper than just outside appearance. What does it make you feel? Even if it's negative, write it down. One of the ways that I figured out that I was an intuitive person and intuitive is by reading somebody. I had never seen this person before. I felt like I knew him, and I felt like I hated him. Hate's a strong word, I know, but really I had a very violent reaction to this person's picture, and I knew nothing about them. absolutely nothing about them, and I said, you know, this person makes me really uncomfortable. I really am having a violent reaction towards this person, and I am not a violent person. I don't know why I'm having this reaction, but I'm also feeling all of these horrible things that I feel like this person's done. And I said this to the person who knew the man that I was talking about, and they were shocked. They were like, wow, you just hit the nail on the head with them. You think that they're really capable of some of the worst parts of the things that I had said, and I was like, you know, I want to say no, because that's just in my nature to look at the best of people, but I really feel that they are possibly capable of the worst of these concepts that are popping into my head, and you've already admitted to me that they've done some of these things, so what makes you think that they haven't already done some of the worst aspects of this? Because I don't know why I'm getting this information. I've had that happen with a few different people, and as I let the negative aspects of people that I was seeing come through, I also started getting the positives. And I started seeing the good things in people. It's kind of scary, though, to admit that you are seeing these negative aspects of people, though, because it's like, okay, are people going to believe me? Am I just making shit up? This is uncomfortable. We're not supposed to say something unless it's positive. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. That kind of a thing. But in reality, sometimes you need to say the not so nice stuff to get to the heart of the situation. And so in that, I encourage you to go through, check out the different people, get your opinion on them, and then just ask your friend, hey, what is this person like? You don't have to tell them, oh yeah, I did an exercise of going through one by one and picked out these horrible things that I felt, or these positive things. You may very well get the most amazingly positive feelings from certain people you could possibly imagine. It just happened to be that that very first one that I ever did was a bad one, and I reacted violently. So I'm not saying that everybody's going to feel the same way. I'm not saying that it's all bad. It's kind of neat to be able to learn how to see these different aspects of things and learn different aspects of how to use your intuition. I really highly advise writing down your very first instinct of the person. And it's just like if you're sitting in a restaurant or something like that and somebody walks up to you and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, you know what? I will talk to you. That's instinct. Or, oh no, I don't want to talk to you. That's instinct too. If you just feel really good about meeting this person and their energy, go with it. If you feel uncomfortable by this person's energy, don't. It's that simple. Follow your gut. But, so, again, things to help with anxiety and to narrow down if it's anxiety or intuition telling you these different things is lavender, the hydrosol sprays, the clearing sprays. I make one of bay and lavender and a special water. I make other types too, but that's probably the easiest for you to do at home. Or chamomile. If you start having anxiety attacks, sit down, have a cup of chamomile tea, add lavender to your lemonade. Burn a little lavender if you can, or if you don't have a sensitivity to sage, burn some of that Also, there's Palo Santo, which I'm probably not pronouncing completely correctly, but it's a sacred wood, and it works for refreshing energies too. I really enjoy using that with rosemary to kind of clear around me if I feel like I've been exposed to too much mech. That's the only way I can really explain it, is just icky energy. And sometimes just being in public, that will happen. Especially if somebody is an empath, they'll just feel it kind of cling to them. And so it can help you clear that, and it will help you calm anxiety. And it'll be able to help you zone in on your intuition. Trust yourself. Number one thing is always trust yourself. So, again, lavender, which you probably can't really see all that well. My bowl's about to fall. Woohoo! Lavender! Let's try not to drop the camera. Chamomile. It's a lovely little jar of chamomile. And you know, these are available in, the loose herbs are available in most stores. Chamomile I got out of the ethnic section of the supermarket. And it's just loose bagged chamomile. You can get it as teas. Kava Kava is another one that I use for anxiety, and it helps a lot with my anxiety. But it can have interactions, so I would check with your medical doctors. So, lavender, chamomile, and super awesome sprays. And oils. They make a chamomile oil, and they make lavender oil. I have them. I make them. But you can also find them at the market, health food places, online retailers have it. Some of them aren't as great quality as others, so do your research. I would love to hear some of your guys' intuition stories. Like that one time you met that person and you just felt it was right, the positive ones. Or you happen to feel like going someplace and you were in the right place at the right time and were offered like the most epic dream job ever. Or somehow you just knew you had to go to see somebody and it turned out to be a great thing, or even not so great thing. For me, one of those kind of things was seeing my grandfather for the last time. I hadn't spoken to any of them in 3 years, and I suddenly felt I had to be there. I had to find my dad. I had to figure out where he was. And it turned out that I showed up at his job, and he was home because that same day my grandfather had gone into the hospital, and my grandmother had gone into the hospital. My grandmother lived for another number of years. My grandfather only lived for the rest of that day. But yeah, I've also been in the right place at the right time. Like, going out to hang out with friends and showing up at a bar that was looking for a bartender, and suddenly I was behind the bar with a brand new job. There's all kinds of different stories. Some of my best friends I met purely through intuition and what most people would consider accidents, but I knew who to trust and who not to. And even then I still trusted some of the people that I felt like I shouldn't. But I eventually came around and was like, wait, before any damage actually happens, I need to remove myself. I'm really lucky to have those people in my lives. But we all have our stories, and if you share some. So Again, this is Ebony Moon with Ebony Moon Apothecary, and I really want to hear your stories, and I hope you like this video, and like and subscribe. Right. Thanks. Have a great day, guys.